Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or as we like to say here at Shady Acres Woodshop, howdy! Today we have a piece of what Tuffy Marginez thinks as Cypress. I asked him, that's what he remembers, he's not sure he's right. I took a minute and prepared the piece for turning, and I did that by cutting it in half. For the size of it, I thought 6 inches deep was just too deep. So this way I can get 2 pieces of that wonderful grain. And that's beautiful, don't you think? That's some beautiful stuff. Ooh-wee, baby. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit afraid to turn it because it reminds me of the redwood that I turned that made me sick for 2 days. I probably should have researched this to see if this was going to make me sick, but I didn't. I'm just kind of a jump in with both feet kind of guy and see what happens next. So that's what we're going to do. The piece is about 10 inches by about 7 inches by now, about 3 inches deep. And I think this will be our top. This will be the bottom. And I don't intend to touch any of this outer circumference near the top. I'd like to leave bark all the way around this edge if I can. But that is just beautiful, and I just can't wait to see what it looks like in a bowl shape. So let me figure out how I'm going to mount this. We'll get over here to the lathe and start turning. Well, 2 things. I said this was going to be the top, but as I started thinking about it, if that's the top, then I'm going to end up with this as the bottom, and this pattern of heartwood is not nearly as pretty as that pattern. So this is going to be the top. And also I drilled a hole for my woodworm screw, but of course it's right in a crack here. Seemed like the crack was pretty tight, but it's not. So I installed a faceplate ring, which is going to go on my chuck. I'll show you how that works. Now I've shown this before, but I'm constantly reminded that not everyone watches all of my videos. So this is a faceplate ring that has a dovetail on the inside lip right here, which matches up with the dovetail on my chuck jaws. So you just place that over that and open up the chuck jaws, and then you have a nice tight metal on metal fit. I could use a faceplate, but then I'd have to take off my chuck. So this is just quicker, easier, more efficient. I've got my heater on. That's the hum you hear in the background. This is my first time I've been out in the shop in 5 days today. We've had wind, cold, and snow, and I've been just itching to come out here, but it's just been too cold. But it's up to 38 degrees, and I need that little heater, and I'm anxious to get at this. We're going to be using a 5/8 inch bowl gouge. We're going to be turning at 680 RPM. Mask and face shield on. I just wanted to get the bottom flattened off. Now we'll move over here to the side. I gotta put a glove on, that hurts. Well, let's put our tenon on the bottom. I'll mark out for that. There's a lot of pitch in this wood, and it gives off quite a strong fragrance. I'm going to use this diamond point tool to square up the sides of my tenon. And that's good. Okay, back to the side. We're done. Time for sanding. I'm going to start the sanding with my Sando Flex 180 grit, and I'm going to sand all the bark. And then I'm going to switch to my 2-inch sanding disc at 80 grit and sand the rest of it. And as soon as I get my mask on, I'll show you how all that's going to work. And what that does is cleans the bark and smooths it out, makes it feel good, but it doesn't change the appearance. And then with the lathe spinning in reverse at about 350, I'll be doing that, and I'll alternate between forward and reverse. I'll work up through 400 grit, and I'll bring you back when it's time to put some finish on there. See you in a bit. Well, this stuff is just really pitchy. It fouled my sandpaper every grit. In fact, I only sanded up to 320 instead of 400 because the 320 got fouled immediately. It's still you know, nice and smooth, feels really good, but it's not 400. I'm applying Howard feed and wax, as I sometimes do, and I have different reasons for using it at different times, and this time it's because of that pitchiness. I don't think I could get a smooth finish on there with shellac, and I think this piece lends itself to the more flat finish that this offers rather than a shiny finish, mostly because of that bark. I think it would look silly if it was shiny. So I'm going to switch to a brush here in just a minute and brush this onto the bark and these cracks and whatnot. So I just put some of the feed and wax in the little can here, and then I'll just brush it into these little cracks and then onto the bark. I think this is going to be a nice looking piece. I just can't wait to get at the inside. I'm really glad I decided on the top that I chose. Well, that really brings out the color, huh? Looks nice. Nice contrast with the wood. So I will let this set up for 20 minutes or so, come back out and buff it up, and then we'll be ready to work on the inside. So see you in a bit. So remember, I drilled a hole and then it turned out to be inside these cracks, a couple of cracks there. So I used the faceplate ring. Well, that hole is slightly off center. See there? It's touching over here, it's touching on this side, but there's a good 3/32 on that side that it's not touching the wood. I'm not sure if that's coming through, but that's the case. And so when I tighten this up, I'm applying uneven pressure to the piece, which throws it out of balance, which makes the lathe shake. So what I'm going to do in this case, I could probably get away without tailstock support, but I'm going to take this little block of wood and just place it here just for a while until I get some of the roughing work done. And now it runs nice and true, nice and smooth. So, just something to be aware of. We're going to be turning at 710 RPM, 5/8 inch bowl gouge, mask and face shield on. just want to see how close we are to this edge here. Pretty close. We might want to run off that edge and maybe this edge in order to make a larger bowl. I'm trying to decide how that would look. It would put a dip in here. But maybe that dip would be okay. I'm not sure we'd ever get to this edge. Well, that's a pretty small bowl. I'm not gonna be able to use the tailstock. I just can't do anything here. Well, what's it gonna be? Drop off the side here, take that down like that to make a larger bowl, or does it look good? Got some nice heartwood over here and then not over here. It's kind of a nice contrast. I know it's way early, but with the design of this, with this big old wing up here, I can't quite tell where I am on the bottom. Well, we're only about 3/4 of an inch away from the very bottom. So I don't want to take more than another 1/2 inch. I'm inclined to make a bigger bowl and run off the side. Yeah, I think so. Well, that certainly looks better. I think I'll go a little further even. I think we're there. Yep, 1/4 inch, 3/8. Actually a fairly smooth cut. I'm going to see if my negative rake scraper can round this edge over here. Nice! Time for sanding. I'm going to start sanding at 80 grit with my 2-inch disc sander. Lathe will be spinning forward at 350 RPM. Now this, like I said before, this wood is really pitchy, and you can see it loads up my sandpaper just right away. So I'll use probably 380 grits and 300 grits all the way up through 400. And I'll alternate between forward and reverse, and I'll bring you back when it's time to put some finish on. Boy, I wish it wasn't so pitchy. Okay, let's get some finish on here. Again, this is Howard Feed and Wax. I think I have an even better sanded finish on the inside than the outside. Although the outside's good, I think this might be even better. I did go to 400 grit on this one, where the outside I stopped at 320. Then I'm going to take a little brush and get inside these natural cracks in just a minute here. I pretty much like this one, aside from the fact that it's so pitchy. So I will let this set for 20 minutes with my heater pointed at it because it's really cold out here. And then I'll buff it up And then I'll bring you back here pretty quick and we'll be taking off that tenon and finishing the piece up. See you in a little bit. Okay, let's get the tenon off. I've mounted a block of wood up in my chuck. It's got a non-slip surface on it. I'm just going to slip the bowl over that and bring up my tailstock. I still have the center hole there for reference. We'll just apply a little pressure. Bring up the tool rest, spin it up, make sure it feels like it's centered, looks like it's centered, and it is. I'm going to take a 3/8 inch standard grind bowl gouge and commence to removing that tenon. Lathe is spinning at about 600 RPM. Now I'm going to slow the speed down to about 400 RPM and take a 3/8 inch swept back bowl gouge so that I can get in there tighter. I'm also going to raise my tool rest just a little bit. About the worst thing you can do is get under that tenon because that'll make it pop right out of there. Just keep working it away. And because of those cracks in there, I want to make sure that none of them are interfering with the cut and it looks like it's clear. So now I'm going to slow the speed down to about 200 RPM and I'm going to apply the bevel of the gouge against the bottom of the bowl. Right hand on the gouge, left hand on the switch, and when the little nub stops turning, we'll know we're through. Or disintegrates. Sometimes that happens. Then I'll just take this over to the workbench, sand it up, sign it, get it finished, and I'll be right back. Well, there we have it. One Cypress bowl in the books. Look at that grain. Oh my gosh. That's just gorgeous. I think that would just look beautiful sitting on a table in a log cabin somewhere. There's the bottom all finished up. Nice piece. I really like it. Thank you, Tuffy Marginez, for sending this along for all to enjoy. If you like this video, thumbs up please. I'd sure appreciate it. If you're a subscriber, thank you very kindly. I truly appreciate that. If you're not a subscriber, you might consider becoming one. I put out regular videos, about one a week, and I'd like to keep in touch. An easy way to subscribe is just click my picture you see there near the end of the video. Your comments are always welcome and I read all of them. So for now, this is Phil, Shady Acres Woodshop, signing off.